Life Stories Live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Valentine's Day broadcast on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. Got a very special story for you tonight on this Valentine's Day. If you need help at all and you need prayer, then please contact us on our hotline. You can see it on your screen, +44 794 355 0287. You can phone, WhatsApp, or text, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible on that. You can also go to our website, which you see on your screen also, LifeStoriesWorldwide.com. There you'll find lots of information, all that's going on with Life Stories. You can hear some exciting stories on there as well. But as I said, tonight we have a Valentine's story. We have got Ben and Johanne Petrecz, or Petrecz, depending on how you say it. And they're going to share their story with you tonight. Ben is a lawyer, and Johanne is a doctor, and they sought for things in the world. They found pleasure in the world, but it never really satisfied. And then things changed in their life, and now they have real peace, they have real joy, and they've got an exciting life. So I'm going to hand over now to Ben and Johanne to share their life story with you tonight. Thank you, Ben and Johanne.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, hello, everybody. My name's Ben.
And Johanne.
This is my wife, Johanne. So, I was born in 1980 in Preston, Lancashire, in the north of England. And my father is Hungarian. He's an asylum seeker that came over in the 60s because of the revolution that was going on. And my mum, she was the daughter of a family in Preston who did a lot of baking and had their own bakery shop. And I have one sister who's a couple of years older than me. And from a very early age, my mum gave her life to Christ and she became a born-again Christian. But my dad, to this day, he isn't saved. He's still living in the world like I was for a long time. And because of my mum's faith, I was brought up in the church. And I was brought up in a very close-knit family at my local church where we lived. And I've got nothing but good memories of growing up. I was always loved. I was always taught right from wrong. I was always rebuked and disciplined if I stepped out of line. But I've got absolutely no horrific stories to tell as such. I've got huge credit to both my mum and dad. My dad worked really hard on the railways for 40 years. My mum had a full-time job, obviously bringing me and my sister up, but also worked part-time doing various different things. And I used to go to church 2 or 3 times a week. I'd go to the youth club on a Wednesday night. Sometimes on Tuesday night, my mum would take us to the prayer meeting. And then on Sundays, we used to go to the Sunday morning services. Then we used to stay behind for Sunday school. And then we go to the Sunday evening ceremony as well. And as I said, nothing but good memories. Had a really good upbringing, had a really good grounding in kind of Judeo-Christian values and what was right and wrong. My mum, for those people who know my mum, they'll testify that she's got a real heart for serving people, and for sacrificing her own needs and wants and desires, and for putting other people's needs first and stepping up and helping them whenever they need it. And that's not to say my dad doesn't. It's just my mum obviously does it in a very kind of Christian setting. And I guess the easiest way to explain this is to say that I inherited a lot of my mum's faith and a lot of my mum's beliefs. And I did grow up and dedicate my life to Christ when I was 6 or 7 years old. I said that I'd like to ask Jesus into my heart and become a Christian, and I was going to church regularly. And for many years throughout primary school, I really did have a good relationship with Jesus. I prayed, I thanked him, I understood who he was and what he'd done for me. But as I got into my early teenage years, things started to change. And I guess the things that I was exposed to at school and the things that the world dangles in front of you, things like music, and the social group and school, and things like sport, academia, all these things that the world says you should chase all this because it's glittery and it's shiny and it's really rewarding. Well, I slowly started to do that. I started to drift from God and put things like sport and friends and going out and socializing in place of where Jesus once was. And when I was about 14, I kind of went into the world full time. It's not that I disbelieved anything about Jesus. It's not that I disbelieved anything in the Bible or thought it wasn't true. The easiest way to describe it is I just couldn't be bothered doing anything about it. I kind of decided, well, I want to live my life and I want to live it my way. So I want to run off over here and see what's over here. And I want to go over there and talk to them and see what they've got to offer me. So that's what I did for the next 16 to 18 years of my life. And it would be wrong to say that I didn't experience some degree of success when I was out in the world. I was always at school one of the best athletic kind of people. I was one of the fastest runners. I was one of the best footballers or cricketers. I was academic. I was always towards the top end of the class whenever it came to doing exams and things like that. I didn't struggle to make friends or to mix with people. I was able to mix with adults and in social groups that were older than me. And I played cricket for a good 10, 15 years of my life. And from a very early age, I was in the men's team. So I was used to mixing with people a lot older than me and being able to hold a conversation in those circles. And that put me in good stead for my career. One day I decided that I need to get a proper job, and I saw a job advertised at the local solicitors as an office junior. So I applied for that and was successful. So I started doing all the kind of office assistant type tasks. And then I went from there. I gradually had my own career dealing with costs law and dealing with litigation. I started going to court hearings when I was 19 and doing my own advocacy and mixing with barristers and judges and other solicitors. And I slowly but surely, through hard work and desire, I climbed that ladder, that career ladder. And I was starting to get rewarded and noticed by my employers and my peers. And a lot of people looking from the outside in, would say that I was a success. I was driving a nice car. I had my own house. I had money to be able to do things. I had friends or people who I thought were friends. I was able to go on holidays, and everything seemed kind of rosy from the outside looking in. But there was always something missing in my life. Now, one thing that I never did was deny God. One thing I never did was say, I don't believe God exists. I just didn't have the courage or the strength to forsake everything else and follow Jesus as he asked me to. As I said, I thought I'd do life my own way. And because I was being successful, it seemed like I kind of had the best of both worlds. I knew who God was. I knew who Jesus was. I knew about the Holy Spirit. I understood all that, yet I was able to go and do what I wanted to do and live my life my way. But I always had this niggling feeling at the back of me that I was kind of living a lie, because I knew God and Jesus did exist and what they asked of me. I knew that I was being disingenuous, really, and I wasn't fulfilling perhaps the life that they wanted me to and that they'd planned out for me. And I'd put my kind of desires in place of theirs. And this started to manifest itself in many different ways. So I had a string of girlfriends, and I was a very selfish individual, because the higher you climb up the kind of career ladder and the social ladder, the more kind of power and authority you think you have over people, and the more you want to wield and flex that, and you don't really take into consideration other people's thoughts or feelings. And the best way to sum up my relationships with girls was that I just used to use them. I used to extract whatever I could or wanted from them. And then when I thought I could either better deal them or that we'd kind of come to a natural end, I just abandoned them. And I just left destruction behind me, and a lot of hurt and upset people. And these girls had done nothing wrong. They'd loved me, they'd cared for me, they'd wanted the best for me and for both of us. But I just abused them, for want of a better phrase. I emotionally abused them, and I just took what I could from them and then abandoned them. And when I was 22, I had my first son, Brandon, when I was in my first marriage. And when I was 25, I ended up getting divorced. And then I kind of rumbled on throughout my 20s, living this kind of lie and getting kind of angrier and angrier with myself and with the world around me. And no matter how high I climbed the career ladder and how much kudos my peers and my employer would give me, I was just a mess inside. I was unable to deal emotionally with my own thoughts, my own feelings. I was unable to meet the needs of other people around me when they called on me. And I became kind of ruled by anger and upset. And a lot of this was to do with kind of my divorce and the hang-ups I had with my son and splitting him up with his, from his mum and his family unit. And as I got to 30, in my early 30s, it was kind of enough was enough. And I used to release my anger in fits of rage, to the extent where I was smashing tables and chairs up in the house because I was just so angry. And I'd sit there on the settee and I'd ruminate on things, and I'd think about things that had gone on during the day or that people had said to me. And I'd wind myself up and get angrier and angrier. And the way to release that was by physically kicking and punching tables. And there was one Sunday morning when my son, Brandon, was staying with me at mine. And he would have been about 9 years old at the time. And he did something that was completely insignificant and it didn't actually matter. Yet I flew off the handle and I was kicking tables and chairs. I kicked a table that hard that it actually went up and hit the roof and dented all the plaster in the roof. And of course, my son, who's only 8, 9 years old, he didn't know what to do, and he looked like he'd seen a ghost. He was white as a sheet. And that was, I guess, a kind of turning point, because over the next few months, my sister was saying to me, look, why don't you come to church? And why don't you come out? We've started at a new church, and it's not like the church we used to go to. And I'm sure like you'd enjoy it. It's just different. And there's lots of people your age, and they've got a really good kind of youth setup and things like that. So I resisted initially, but then I did reconnect with church that my sister was going to at the time. And it wasn't some kind of magical event on a Tuesday night that all of a sudden I found Jesus again. What happened was, over the space of perhaps 3 to 6 months, I gradually got to the point where I was that sick of myself. I was that sick of who I was. I was that sick of being Ben Petrecz and being emotionally inept and being unable to see or think past my own selfish needs and whims, that I just got on my knees and I said, Jesus, I've had enough. I've had enough of being me. I've had enough of trying to do life my way. No matter how the world sees me, I'm empty inside. I know I'm living a lie, and I know there's nothing of eternal worth or value for me in what I'm doing. I surrender. I give up. I'm yours. Take me. Do what you will with me. And over the next few weeks, I was just in floods of tears quite frequently, because slowly and surely the Lord started revealing to me all the things that I'd done in the past, and all the hurt and all the wrong that I'd caused people.
LifeStories Live.
And he opened my eyes to the type of person that I had been compared to the type of person I should be and who he wanted me to be. So a lot of tears were shed, and a lot of searching and reading the Bible took place. And I ended up writing letters to most of my ex-girlfriends and apologizing to them, not because that somehow released me from some kind of burden because I apologized to them. No, because these girls deserved to know that they'd done nothing wrong, that it was me who was obnoxious and destructive, and it was me that was the problem, not them. And I just apologized to them all. And I also wrote to some of the parents as well and did the same and apologized, because they'd let me into their house. They'd had Christmas and celebrated birthdays with me, yet I'd turn around and essentially spat in their face as well. So having been through that kind of breaking and rebuilding, the Lord started to show me things that were more benefit to me, the way I should be conducting myself, the things that I should be working towards, and the treasure that I should be storing up that's eternal rather than the kind of temporal stuff. And the best example I can give you of what that looks like is halfway through my career, I did something at work and it was purely innocent, but it was really, really serious. And I should have just got sacked on the spot because of how serious the mistake that I'd made was. Yet my employer showed me grace and showed me mercy and didn't sack me on the spot. They worked through the problem with me and they kept me employed. And what that taught me was that I'm not in control of my own destiny. No matter how great and awesome I think I am, I'm not in control of any of these things on earth. At any point in time, they can be taken away from me because my identity being in the world isn't my identity. It's what the world wants me to be. It's someone false. It's not who Christ wanted me to be. And it's not who I really was deep down because I knew I was living in a lie. Whereas when I put my identity in Christ and when I put my focus and my effort in following Jesus instead of a football team or a cricket team or running after my mates and holidays and things like that, I started to feel far more at peace with myself, knowing that God's a God who doesn't let you down, who isn't temporal, who knows what a loser I am, yet he loves me anyway, and his love is unconditional. And he knows that I'll make mistake after mistake after mistake, but he'll pick me up and he'll work with me and through me to help me and make me more Christ-like. And these are the kinds of things that I couldn't find in the world, no matter how successful I was from a career perspective or how many friends I had. And it's quite ironic that all these so-called friends that I had for decades, I no longer speak to because they weren't true friends in the sense that Jesus is my true friend. Jesus will stick by me no matter what I go through or what kind of mistakes I make. Whereas I found that a lot of my so-called friends were friends whilst the going was good or I had something to offer them. But as soon as they perceived me as not being able to meet their needs or their desires or their whims, they were just as quick to abandon me as I was to abandon my ex-girlfriends when I thought they couldn't offer me anything else. So that's kind of where I was in my early 30s. And then as I got into my mid 30s, I knew that if I was ever going to remarry or be in a serious kind of relationship again, it had to be with somebody who was a Christian, who had the same Judeo-Christian values that I did and believed the same things I did, so that we could grow together in God rather than kind of being pulled apart because we had different worldviews. And I was praying to Jesus. I was saying, look, Jesus, your will be done. But insofar as you might have a girl lined up for me in the future, I don't know who this girl is. I don't know where she is in her life, and I don't know what she's going through. But I ask you to bless her. I ask you to keep her strong. And I ask you to help her grow closer to you and to pursue you and to kind of understand the things that you've taught me over the last few years, that without Jesus in a relationship, the chances of that being everlasting or eternal are very slim. So that's what I was praying for. And I started going on Christian dating sites just to kind of see what the score was. I'm not very tech savvy, and I'm not very confident when it comes to things like dating sites. And I registered on a few, and I wasn't impressed. A lot of them appeared to be scams. But I thought, all right, I'll try Christian Connection. it was my kind of last throw of the dice. I was like, I'm not that bothered. Whatever will be, will be. And I joined Christian Connection on the Monday night. And then on the Tuesday morning, I woke up and I had a message from someone called Johanne in Runcorn. And she started to woo me with her wordplay and her sense of humour and her jokes that were far too intellectual for me. I couldn't keep up with her. And we ended up meeting a week later. And within 6 to 8 weeks, we were engaged. I proposed to her on the bridge in Prague, on Charles Bridge. And then 258 days later, we were married on the 1st of July, 2017. 2017. Of course I could remember. But it just goes to show that I was looking for all these answers and all these things in the world, and I was trying to obtain them or attain them in my own strength and with my own knowledge and understanding. And as soon as I abandoned my own understanding and so-called knowledge and wisdom, and I substituted that for the wisdom and knowledge of Christ and surrendered to him and gave him the keys so that he could drive the car, then my life started falling into place.
LifeStories Live.